Jai Hind everyone, welcome to Sanvad, the voice of Sunbeam, where we take a look into the lives of people who shape young minds. This is your host Aditi, and on the chair parallel to mine is Mr. Vardan Kabra. Mr. Vardan is an educationist with a strong academic background from IIT Bombay and IIM Ahmedabad. He is the co-founder of Fountainhead Preschool and has been leading Fountainhead School in Surat since 2008. He is deeply committed to student-centric learning, innovative pedagogy, and teacher development while also fostering a strong culture of sports and the arts. He is the author of Reimagining Indian Education, where he shares his vision for the future of learning in India. First of all, we're absolutely grateful to have you here with us, sir. It is a pleasure as we got to know about your vision in the session that we have. And now it is time that we delve deeper into your experiences. So, sir, with the permission to start with the podcast?
Absolutely. Aditi, thank you for calling me here. It's an absolute pleasure.
So, sir, my first question is that you work so closely with young minds within a large, like being a head of the large institution. And sir, I imagine that must at times take you back to your own foundational years. So before we speak of impact and ideologies that you believe, I'd like to begin at the very root. What were your early years like and how did those experiences shape who you are today?
Great question, Aditi. I think I studied in 11 schools across India. And that happened because my father was in a transferable job in a private sector. Now, because of that, I actually have experienced North India, Central India, East India, South India, West India, small towns, big towns. Like I've lived in Adilabad district in Andhra Pradesh, which is a backward tribal district, to Delhi and Mumbai and Pune and Ahmedabad. And now Surat for the last many years. So I've lived in all kinds of places, and because I had this wide exposure, while I did like it when I was growing up, I had to become adaptable, flexible, whether it's with food, whether it's with culture, whether it's with people. And that's really helped me become someone who can adapt to new situations and work with all kinds of people, and that's really helped me. So I think all of that, and then because I've got a wide exposure of having lived in a small town to a large city, I think I've just had a great, exposure, growing up.
Yes, I agree that when we reflect back on like what we were or who we were, and then when we see what we are now, there's like a huge leap, I think, and also that how it has also given a little contribution to what we are now. So this brings me to my next question when we talk about your journey, that from engineering to management to education was particularly a journey. So it doesn't feel very linear. It doesn't feel like it was just in one direction. So sir, there must have been things which have shifted along the way. And sir, was there any point that you thought that like this is the particular thing that you wanted to do? And if not, then sir, what were the turning points in the journey?
So I just spoke about the fact that because I studied in multiple schools, I had a great exposure from a cultural adaptability viewpoint. But as a schooling experience, my best learning experiences especially were outside of school rather than inside of school. So when I was doing a astronomy internship in institute in Pune, and that's the time I really enjoyed learning trigonometry and astronomy. And then because I could apply it on the project that I was working in. Now, because that happened and I thought about it, even when the board exams were coming, I was not excited about learning, So that was a big significant trigger for me when I was thinking about what to do in the future. And somewhere, because of even doing engineering, I got there, but I realized that no, because I was a good student, I did well in the examination, got there, but I realized that this is not something I want to do. And how did I get there was because, that's where the path which most students take, and I got there. The educational experiences that I had, I think led me to think about that, okay, students can have a much more enjoyable, exciting and relevant educational experiences while growing up. They don't have to wait for something outside of school to happen to enjoy that experience. And that was a significant trigger for me to get into education so the whole education journey and my life journey got me into sort of education that way.
So as we talk about education, also knowing that you have also written a book which is Reimagining Indian Education. Sir, the way you speak about education, it is not very distant or very theoretical. It's very personal, like you've questioned yourself very deeply. So sir, when we talk about Indian education, what is like a personal belief that this particular system does work but does not truly educate?
So I think the Indian education system right now is primarily built as structurally it is built as something which essentially does a filtering process for college admissions because the board examinations and the competitive examinations are sort of structured in that manner, and it is not focused on learning at a deep level. Unfortunately, the problem lies in the assessments and the examinations because they have to be at scale and they have to be objective and fair. They end up becoming a very rote memory based, information based examination system rather than higher order examination system. So that has to change for education inside the classroom to reflect real life learning, real life systems. And I do have some answers in the book. As you mentioned, I've given some answers, but to do it at scale is definitely going to be a challenge, and we need to, but as we also discussed in the session, that change is going to come sooner than later, simply because AI and technology is going to make a lot of our current education systems obsolete, and it's going to create a crisis in the whole job crisis, and therefore college crisis is going to happen. Like we already know, most of our engineers are not employable because they don't have the skill sets. Now that's going to show up even more starkly once AI is doing a lot of their work. So that, I think, is going to be painful for the country, but also necessary, and is going to bring about better quality education and better quality jobs and job creators in the future.
Sir, just a follow-up to this answer is that, sir, right now you talked about that it's more rote learning related. So, sir, now that we talk about like 10th and 12th boards, we know that CBSE has given more competency-based questions and more higher order thinking.
Yeah.
But, sir, at some point, I believe that there's still a hint of that rote learning, or there's still a hint of that, yes, if you have to answer this, you have to remember things, you have to remember that particular things which has been taught in the class. So, how do you think we can tackle that?
So I think it's not as much as it needs to be. The whole competency-based stuff, it's nowhere near it needs to be. Like if you are still being asked, say, definitions of, I don't know, or supply demand, if you're just to draw a supply demand graph, if you're doing economics, or just being asked definitions in the board exams, it's still very entry level. I mean, not the higher order that we're talking about. What the exams need to start looking like case studies, which you are solving real life problems by not and the answers need to be in your own words, and therefore the challenge lies in the ability of schools to be able to train students, all their students, in that manner, and also from an assessment side where teachers have to be well equipped to be able to mark that higher order thinking questions and answers in a level. The second problem can be solved significantly with AI. AI can start doing assessment marking automated in a much more meaningful manner. So the first problem needs to be solved at the school level. And I will go beyond to say that the exams also need to look more project based, real life project based. So where you're taking on real projects and solving them and showing. So like a portfolio, we spoke about design and IT and all of these places you can show portfolio. Can we do that in other areas, in law, in medicine, in engineering? So you have to show portfolio of your own work that you are actually interested and good at doing those things. And it is tricky. I'm not saying it is easy, but it's not impossible.
So it should like basically be that we imply the things that we are studying rather than just writing and proving it that we know about that knowledge.
Yes.
So moving on to my next question is, in a system that often equates success with marks and ranks, something you may have dealt with seeing as you are an IIT Mumbai alumni who must have a long journey of clearing the JEE examination. So how do you personally define success for student today? Because right now in a society we live in, there is a particular notion for what success is. So sir, what do you think success for student truly is?
So Most of my work is done in Surat, Gujarat, which is a business-dominated city. And the good thing is when I ask parents there very clearly that how many so tell me people who are successful. Okay, so they name them. And then I ask them that, okay, tell me what did they score in their 10th or 12th or what education institute did they go to? They barely have answers because most of them recognize that success in real life has very little to do with marks or grades at the school or even the college level. At best, that can give you an entry point into a organization, typically in a job. But beyond that, success depends on so many of the other factors that we discussed, like problem solving, creative thinking, critical thinking, communication skills, resilience, adaptability, all those that I call 21st century skills. And those are the things that really makes an individual successful.
So I'll just end the podcast with a very light question, which is this constant years of you thinking about education, which also eventually led you to writing a book on it, then leading, then creatively thinking about this. So how has this changed you as a person?
I would say that I have become a much more, I want to say humane, but I want to say empathetic person, because I recognize that everyone hasn't had the privilege that I have had, thanks to my parents, thanks to the opportunities that I got. But at the same time, it is also therefore my, I would say, responsibility and my endeavor to bring that high quality of education to as many kids as I can. So that's our endeavor as Fountainhead. But not just as Fountainhead, even as part of Arise, which I'm a member of. I think that's our endeavor, that how can, and that's why I wrote the book, that how can we bring that paradigm shift for Indians to think about education differently and also implement as much of that as possible.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for engaging with me in this podcast, and it was really grateful by talking to you.
Thank you, Aditi. I really enjoyed our discussion earlier and this podcast.
Thank you, sir.